We welcome into the show President of Over Under Sports and Entertainment Marketing, Ed Berry. How you doing today, Ed?
I'm doing great. Great. After a 4-day of NCAA tournament, I think I'm finally feeling like I'm rested a bit.
Great. So before we dive into the weeds here, one thing we definitely want to know, do you bet on sports yourself?
A little bit. More in the beginning as a curiosity to kind of figure out what it's all about. And I enjoy talking to people about what they're doing. And I think, a lot of these people that come into Over Under are looking for an activity. And it's something to do while they are watching a game. And then that way they have a little bit of a vested interest. So and then you get your occasional row of sharps that tend to sit on the far right side of the front bar. And I can count up a good $15,000 to $20,000 worth of bets coming out of those guys. That gets a little tense over there. I got to watch where I walk when I'm over there, if they're in a good mood or not.
And now for the audience, and so that they're informed on what we're referencing here, you are the owner of Over Under Sports Bar located in Chicago, Illinois. One of the reasons that we really wanted to have you on is because the concept of a sports book themed restaurant, bar, and grill was, I'm not going to lie, something that we have ourselves daydreamed about. But as opposed to our lazy dreams, you're the one who actually went out and made it a reality. So first of all,
I'm just a crazy guy who actually did it.
Yeah. Kudos to you. We are one of several million young males, older males, whatever we may be, who are dreaming of it. And you're the one who goes and pulls it off. So kudos for that. Second of all, can you share a little bit about what your restaurant is and how it came to be?
Yeah, I've been in professional media sales, a bunch of magazines in my early days, most notably Rolling Stone. Had my own rep firm, worked my way into some other websites. Microsoft had a portal called MSN. I helped start that in the Midwest, and then eventually ended up over at CBS and was there for 13 years. Half of that time helping them manage the sports sales for interactive and then entertainment sales after that. And just gave me a big idea of how people think and how deep they go in their websites, and they're relying on information. And then we start thinking about what I could do with Over Under, and sports betting became something legal on mobile apps back in first quarter of 22. And I knew it was coming. And the thought process was, why should I have to go to a suburban casino to be in a sports book? Why can't the sports book come to my local favorite tavern? And then we started just thinking about it a little bit more. And I went to some partners and said, hey guys, I need to raise a little money. And I was amazed. I had like 10 people right in a row, like, oh, I'm in. I love it. And there was an article that you guys read from Chris Altruda of sportshandle.com 2 years ago, actually. And then he had another one the other day. And Chris was writing about how we're onto something. Next thing I know, I've got all the major sportsbook contacting me saying they're looking for a partnership. So that's how it came about. And we ended up partnering with FanDuel, and it enabled us to get sports odds on screens inside the bar, enable us to put their logo on the sign out in front, so people actually would come in and say, is this a FanDuel bar? And are you the manager? And I'm like, no, we own the bar and they're our partner. And then we just started integrating it more, where we could gamify the atmosphere and get people to have a chance to win something besides a bet. Or if they signed up for FanDuel, they got a chance to get some merchandise. And it just took off. And next thing you know, we got a packed house, and everybody's saying, during COVID, I was locked in my house. I finally got to go out. Now they unleashed these mobile sports betting apps, and I really don't want to just watch a game. I want to participate, and sports betting is the way we can participate. So thanks for doing this. And it took off from there. So it was kind of fun that we had a hunch, and it just, everybody took to it quickly.
So you mentioned the gamification of basically what you're talking about is building the restaurant experience as more than just the food and entertainment, but you're creating almost like you're competing with bowling night for some folks. You're competing with, these other entertainment experience driven trivia night, those sorts of examples out there. So with this particular concept, what are some of the gamification benefits, or what gets the endorphins going for the sports gamblers in your space?
There's a couple things. At the core of what we're doing, we have people that we hire who are more or less like concierge, but they're betting ambassadors. And their job is to drop knowledge on people. Don't tell them what to bet, but be knowledgeable. Tell them how the matchups look, the prop bets, understand how to do teasers, whatever it is. Educate people, make them feel comfortable. I think we get a fair amount of new bettors, and then you got that maturing group right there that want to be better bettors, right? And then they want to learn how to do parlays the right way, and other bets that are not just standard. What we do by gamifying it is that we came up with ideas like betting raffles and something we call the Better Bingo, Bettor Bingo. And we went through FanDuel, and they had to go through legal, and each one of them took about a month to get approved through legal. But if we go around and somebody has got an active FanDuel bet, and let's say they've got $200 worth of bets, the first $20 gets one raffle ticket. Every 10 thereafter gets another raffle ticket. So your $200 worth of active bets will get you 19 tickets. Well, we keep doing that around the house, and what we're offering is that 2 hours, we're going to give away something like $50 of a cash deposit back on your betting line if you win, as long as it's on FanDuel. Well, I counted a couple times where we've had packed houses on really big days, and I'm seeing actively just on FanDuel itself over $20,000 worth of bets in our 3,300 square foot bar. So not many bars can say that they have that going on, let alone know it's even going on, right? And then what are they betting on the other apps, or what did they bet earlier in the day, and so on. So it creates a really lively atmosphere that if you can gamify it and prizify it, then people feel good about they win the bet, but what else can I get? And in some cases, like a Better Bingo, it's a 5-leg parlay, and it's got to be a plus 400 or higher type of bet. And if you win that bet, that parlay, you win a $50 gift certificate to the restaurant for food and beverage next time you come there. And, in all transparencies, the book reimburses me on that because they like the fact that we got people to try different kinds of bets like parlays. And it's a win-win for everybody, and it electrifies the atmosphere. I mean, this weekend, we would have close to 200 people in the bar, and I would say at least 75 of them were playing along with our gamification.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of why we started this was like trying to get more involved in the community. Like there's a community of bettors, right? And whether it's like, they're just figuring it out, or maybe helping somebody along the way, or they think they're the smartest guy in the room, it doesn't matter. It's still an interesting group of people. And I think like, you're kind of harboring like almost like a safe space for those people, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because, we go hang out with our friends and watch sports, and they have no idea what we're talking about, or they think we're total degenerates, which we are.
That's a definite benefit of going to Over Under Sports Bar with your wife, is that she expects you to look at your phone and gamble. So, you go out dinner with her anywhere else, can't do that.
Yeah. No, we're here to bet.
In the door with a hall pass in hand.
Okay. So you had mentioned that you were kind of looking across your different consumer groups, and a lot of these consumers are either, light bettors who are coming in to experience the thrill of gambling, maybe one of the first times they've done it, versus slightly more experienced bettors who know what they're doing, all the way up to people who are laying 20,000 a night in your bar. Between these different groups, who's your most common customer? Are you dealing more with, feel more casuals, or do you feel most of the people walking through are already fairly experienced in this realm?
I think that they're slightly experienced, the majority of them. We do a reservation system through a service called Talk. And Talk allows us the opportunity to not only ask how big your party is and what time you want a table, we get to ask them one important question: which game are you coming for? And then we set up all those reservations ahead of time. I publish a list of all the games. I'll advertise which games will have sound, and then I'll preset where the reservations are going to go. And sometimes we have up to 75% of the house is reserved. And I'll make sure that, if there's the biggest games in my second room, which is my biggest room, and I'm going to put those people in front of those screens. And when I greet them at the door, I'm like, not only do I have your table, the game's on right now. And they're like, awesome. Everywhere else I have to go, I have to beg for my game, or they got to go find 20 different remote controls.
Right.
And we have the benefit, we have about $250,000 in electronics in our bar. And because the bar is really more of a test kitchen for what we want to do, and taking this into other bars and more over-unders too. And we've worked to have a mobile app where I can control 63 screens through my phone. And so when I'm walking around, I can change the screen in front of the person. So that works to my favor, and that works against me too, because once people realize, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi and I've got the lightsaber in my hand, they're like, oh, can you change this TV and that TV? And I'm like, sorry, dude, I'm not putting your rugby on. It's football time, right? And you get some weird requests, but I mean, especially during the tournament, it was amazing with all the games on in the first round, the first round period, that I was getting requests. I had to go hide at some point because I couldn't keep changing screens without pissing somebody off.
Right.
But the beauty of our system is that we can change individual screens, and most big sports bars are on a network system where a direct TV box is tied to 4 different screens, one in the front, one in the middle, one back, and one way in the back. And you're going to piss somebody off when you change that channel because the guy way in the back said, hey, what happened to my game, right? To me, that sports enthusiast who really loves the game and likes the experience of the betting to go with it and the customization of, you got my game on the screen, I got my other games around it, you got 63 screens, so I got a lot to look at. You gamify it, you prizify it. People just turn and say, this is just so much fun. And so I think we appeal to that person that's looking for that higher level of entertainment.
What a fantastic customer experience to be able to put the game you'd like to watch on your reservation.
That is genius.
That's genius.
So my dad and I are diehard Niners fans. And
Nice.
every time he comes into town, we get together and go watch the Niners at a sports bar. I can actually tell you that every single time we go into the bar, it's like we're looking for the Niners game and they don't have it on. So then we got to ask somebody, hey, can you put the Niners game on? So I imagine NFL Sunday, you have all the games on, and anybody who's coming into the bar who makes that reservation can just say, we want to watch the Raiders Bengals. Okay, we'll take you to that section.
Yeah.
And boom, you're right there. I mean, that's absolutely genius. I love that.
You're going to love this other part. Our next level of technology, and we're hoping we get it ready for football, or at least early next year, is that we're working with an independent technology company that is helping us add to the ability to select through my phone how to embed odds into an existing TV screen on the wall. It creates an L pattern, and imagine the column up and down the left side and a row across the bottom. And if I know that's the 49ers and the Ravens game, I can put those odds on the column and the bet bites going across the bottom. And if the next game over is Bears and Packers, I can put it on that. And then when my betting ambassadors go around, they're watching what people are, staring at, what game they're into. And let's get deeper into that. And you don't have to look into the odds. I have it on the screen for you. So I'll save you the time looking at your phone, and you can watch the game at the same time. So that's what we're calling plus mode for our OU Plus systems. And we hope to have that in the next 6 to 9 months.
Do your bet ambassadors do any type of training or any preparation work or anything along those lines to make sure that they're keeping up with, individuals who host their own sports gambling podcast?
I think you guys would challenge them in that way, but we hire people that love to talk about sports and have an interesting perspective, and are not afraid to use some numbers to support an argument, right? And I think in a lot of ways, like in my early days of doing any kind of gambling, sports gambling, was horse racing. And, you would start to read the form and you're like, there's too many numbers. You gotta pick a few numbers that really will help you just make that simple decision on your bet. And I think we try to simplify the process and help people understand that what you like about that team is great, but they're a little vulnerable in that way when they're playing this team because they got a great cornerback. And statistically, you might have some problems, right? Where the real strength is for that team versus this team might be here, and you throw some supportive numbers out. Then you let them decide from there. I think the person coming in there just needs some guidance more than they need you to dump a bunch of numbers on top of them.
Do you worry about potentially any of the ambassadors, not necessarily steering customers a certain way to bet on games, but just throwing out, hey, so and so's betting this, I would bet this.
Yeah, got a hot tip.
You know what I mean? Yeah, got a hot tip, something like that.
That's one of our bozo no-nos.
Yeah.
We can't do that. You're allowed to say what you're betting on. That's okay, but that's me. But I think in what you're looking at, here's some key information you need. My older son, he's 24, and he's a basketball aficionado. He actually memorized the stats of every starting lineup of every team in the NCAA tournament. And he can not only tell you their stats, he can tell you where they transferred from and why that team's better with him. Coming from a different school and adding a different equation. And when they meet up against a team that's, a good defending 3-point shooting team, here's why this team might be able to handle it better. And then he has a counter argument to it as well. So, if anything, he might even confuse people because he's making a good case for both. And I'd rather have him do that than just say, this is a surefire bet, take it.
Yeah.
Right. I can't think of anything worse than a restaurant offering a high emotional wagerer who's been drinking a losing bet that then he finishes the game and looks back at you guys and go, I owe you what for this?
Yeah, right. Exactly. You're buying my beers.
That doesn't help.
Yeah.
All right. So anything we can expect to see in the future from an engagement perspective with consumers or with customers at your restaurant?
Yeah, I'm trying to, we're moving off of FanDuel and we're probably moving closer to an agnostic model. And 85% of the people that walk in our door already have FanDuel. So we're trying to get 15% of people to sign up. Acquisition is important in the industry, but the industry is getting to a point where it's got to have a lot more to do with retention. And, and in marketing, that would be customer relationship marketing, right? And people want to enjoy the experience more, right? And if you came in there and you're a DraftKings person, you may not be comfortable with me asking you to switch. And I should treat you as a customer that, if that's your preference, that's okay. Let's just talk about, the matchups and the opportunities. And let's face it, most books are similar and with odds. There might be a hook difference on the betting odds, unless you're something like a Circa that has a little bit higher, more aggressive odds for like hardcore bettors, right? I think what you're going to see is we think that there's a higher level to tie in a sports book that might have an affinity program where you're developing points. Take like a Fanatics. Fanatics has Fan Cash. And you earn Fan Cash points if you make a bet. You earn Fan Cash points if you buy apparel. And you also earn Fan Cash points if you buy a collectible through Topps because they own all three. And they allow you to take those points and make a bet, buy a T-shirt, or put it towards a collectible, right? And then imagine tying that all into as we go out and we bring our OU Plus, our technology, into other sports bars, is our expansion plan. So instead of having 10, 20 different over-unders, we're going to bring this betting ambassador sportsbook technology and people into other sports bars to help them be a sportsbook bar on big days. So imagine taking all that affinity on the sportsbook side and tying it back to a bar group that has 50 bars across the United States. And all of a sudden, you're creating a new currency in that. And then imagine if you as a consumer are going out and you see that, oh, this is an official OU Plus bar and a sticker in the window or something of that sort, you know you're going to get some help with betting ambassadors. You know you're going to have a chance to engage, and you know you'll have a chance to win more, whether it's a straight up prize or something tied to the affinity program to get you points on a loyalty basis. And as a bar, you say, look, this is great because I get repeat customers. They're happy, and they may want to stay longer too. So we think engagement is going to be the key to the future, because it's going to be common that you have a bet and you're playing along with the game, but you want something else going on. I mean, let's face it, most of these younger people have this ADD edge to them, and they can't just do one thing at a time. They can do 3 or 4 things. And this falls right into that, that kind of preference.
From what you've noticed, do your customers typically have 0 books already on their phone, 1 book, or multiple books?
I think it's rare after 2 years of Illinois being legal for 2 years now. I think it's rare somebody doesn't have one that comes in there. I think the person comes to the bar with a better mindset, BETTOR mindset, and they probably already have some bets. They've been betting, and they're doing it more when they're at the bar because they can see more than one game at a time.
Right.
If you're betting on 3 games, how do you watch that at home? Unless you have to watch a game on your phone, a game on your computer or iPad, and one on TV. And instead, you could be walking into a bar that has 63 screens, and you could have a 5-leg parlay going on and seeing all the action at one time, right?
Well,
So
we could give you 3 different answers for how we handle that question you just asked. All 3 of them would be different, and all 3 of them would take about 20 minutes to explain to you.
You guys did say you were gambling degenerates, right?
That is correct.
Yeah,
Profitable gambling
that's
degenerates.
a good thing. Yeah,
Caveat.
yeah.
All right, Ed, you mentioned in an article that there are 140 to 150 great days of sports that drive your business. Are there any days of sports that surprise you with their popularity?
Yeah, it's the new sports. We recently were contacted by the Chicago F1 Club, and they had a race on a Sunday during the day, which was rare because it was in Saudi Arabia and there was some religious holiday. And so they shifted their time and their day. And next thing you know, I got 90 people in the back bar. And they were very good customers too. And they're like, this is awesome because, when you stream a sport, especially like F1, you can get 3 different views that you can choose. You can do the topographical look at the racetrack and who's in what position. You get the stats version. You can get the race version that you would normally get on broadcast. Matter of fact, you can even switch into a menu that lets you get each individual driver's view when you switch from one to the other. So when you have our back 2 rooms is what they took up, which is about 40 of the screens. And they used every screen they could use. And they were like, this is great. We don't have this anywhere else.
Wow.
Matter of fact, there's a big race coming up Memorial Day weekend. And it's F1 earlier in the day. And then the Indianapolis 500 comes on a little later. And these guys are talking about doing a double booking, which is awesome, right? And then in the early days when we were open, we thought we were just top 4 sports is all people are going to care about. And soccer really surprised us when they had the Champions League championship. We completely packed the bar. We were so undermanned to have the proper amount of servers and bartenders. We totally underestimated what this crowd was all about. And so that's been big. I think the Olympics are going to have a big draw. And, and especially if the network does get smart enough to have, like they do at the NCAA tournament, where we've got different games on different channels, could we possibly get, 4 or 5 different sports at a time, or versus everything just being on NBC, right? And then making sure you can show all that. And then EPL's been strong too. Not regular season as much as it is they get into the playoffs and it leads into champion.
Do you adjust your hours for sporting events based, because a lot of EPL happens like in the morning, right?
We did in the beginning, and you try finding a bartender who will start at 6 in the morning, and it's very hard. And then we said, guys, sorry, we can't do the 6 a.m. We can do it at 9 a.m. Right?
Yeah.
And some days you get a lot of people. Other days you get 4 people, and you're like, oh boy, what did I do here? Right?
Yeah.
But it pays off when you get into more of a playoffs and that type of thing. They appreciate it. And then if we have certain days, like right now we're closed Monday, Tuesday, we opened on Tuesday during the tournament for the playing games. Matter of fact, if I had a magic wand and I knew everybody would follow along the bouncing ball of what I'm about to say, I wouldn't be open certain days on a calendar basis, Wednesday through Sunday. I would publish the 140 days a year when Sports Rocks and said, if it's one of those 140 days, we're open.
Yeah.
Right. And then people would know that they're walking in and it's going to be worth it for everybody. Right. The hard thing about a sports bar, you live and die by the sword. And some days you don't have that much in the way of sports, but you got to be open.
To be clear, we are talking, sir, to 3 people who view this year as having 366 great sports days in a calendar year.
Well, All-Star break.
I think we need to sit down and have a conversation. What we can do, maybe some Maction League going on Tuesday nights in the fall.
Get your surfing on there.
We could do women's heat surfing competitions through the bar. I mean, I'm thinking of all these great. We got 366 days, Ed. We can have a lot of fun with it with sports.
Got to find bartenders.
Reinvented the calendar. I like it. Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, we're going to let you go. What's your go-to menu item at your restaurant, sir?
The over-under burger. Yeah, it's awesome. It's pre-made a certain way. It's the only way you can get it. We got plenty of other burgers that you can, change up and make how you want, or take this off and that off. But over-under burger comes one way, and we get raves on it. It's really the go-to.
Can't wait to try it.
Well, I think we got to know, what are we looking at for beers on tap?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I want to get that question in.
Yeah, we've got 20 beers on tap. We rotate 4 and keep 16 on a regular basis. We don't go with the 10 of them changed every week for craft brew. We find our craft beers we like, or what our customers like, and we stick with them, right? One of the things that we had off that we added back on was Guinness, and it's our second biggest seller for the last 3 weeks. St. Patrick's Day helps, but
Sure.
I think people just like the product so much. The best thing that people like is, you can buy a 16-ounce beer, and for an extra $2, you can go from 16 to 24. It's called the Go Big beer, and it's a domestic beer like Coors Light, Miller Lite, Bud Light, or Modelo, and by far that's what people buy. I mean, people tell me, keep that burger and keep those big beers coming for $8. That's all I care about.
That's great. How about you got Malort on your shelf?
We do.
Okay.
I want to tell you though, as a former Jägermeister drinker and haven't done that in a long time, I think Malort's the worst tasting liquor in the world. That's why people like it. That's why I call it ass in a glass.
Love it.
Yeah.
On that note, Ed, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. You can find Over Under Sports Bar at 2723 North Halsted Street, Chicago, Illinois, or get more information online at overunderchicago.com. Good juju to your bets, everyone. We'll talk again soon.